Greetings, flesh creatures. It is I, Megatron. On behalf of TFYLP, I want to congratulate you for listening to the most refined collected podcast on this miserable little planet Earth. Yes. Here you'll find knowledgeable fans discussing every aspect of Transformers and beyond. Now, enjoy the show while I continue my path to complete conquest of all of you miserable biological entities. Predacons, terrorize!
Hello, and welcome to TFYLP 391 for Monday, July 27th. I am joined tonight by Jack.
Sup, peoples?
And Nick.
Hello.
And Paul.
How are you?
Very good. And myself, Lucas. So tonight we are kind of, I guess, going back to basics. We've had a lot of talk, just kind of that our podcast in general is pretty heavy, not really for new Transformers fans, that we do a lot of, I guess, talking about, kind of inside things or just things that you kind of have to be in the community to understand, that we, don't really for the new people or whatnot. So with that, I thought it'd be interesting to do a show talking about, if you're thinking about getting into collecting Transformers, what are some good resources and advice and all that type of thing for it. So I don't think we've done that type of show since 2015, so I figured it would probably be a good idea to, now that, the cast is new and whatnot, that we give our perspective on that.
I mean, not a lot's changed since 2015.
Yeah. Right.
At least in our side of the world, other than there's been a lot more toys. But as far as resources go, there's not much new. But there still are some good resources to bring up.
There's a lot of toys since 2015. Give me that. I don't know.
I can assure you that's true.
I was gonna say, Nick, can you get your spreadsheet out and tell us?
I can.
Give us the exact number.
That bad boy.
of stuff then. So, and I don't know. In general, I feel like Transformers, there's a lot of resources online that are available for collecting. I feel like that, and I could be completely wrong, it seems like there's more than other fandoms. If I'm looking to get into, I don't know, Marvel Legends or something like that, are there similar resources for that as there is for...
We have way more resources than most other toy lines out there. There are very few toy lines. Maybe Star Wars has better resources than us. And I'm telling you that as a guy who does, toy retail for a living and has to figure out what old toys are. Maybe Mego, because there's not so much of that and it's easy to document it all. And vintage Star Wars, modern Star Wars, you've got a couple sites. But for any other toy line, it's a real big reach to find the kind of depth of information that you can find on Transformers.
I would agree with that, although I'd say the Transformers one, there's a lot of them, and it's very fragmented though.
Sure.
You can't just use one to solve all your problems that you're having. If you're selling, or if you're trying to find parts, or you're trying to identify figures, each website has kind of their own strong suit as far as that goes, and you kind of have to utilize all of them at different times. That's a problem.
Yeah, I know, the only issue I think one of the issues that I see is with just the photography, as far as, there's not a lot of good catalogs of, all the toys, with the images. I think TF Wiki, so I guess starting off, some of these resources that we're talking about. Like one of the main ones that I really like to use is called TFWiki, and it has
That's what I'm using right now.
a plethora of information about all the different lines, going back all the way to G1. And it just has, kind of everything documented and linked. And so if you look for Starscream or whatnot, it'll pull up the, all the various Starscreams that there have been, and, the movies versus the different cartoons in G1 and, all that type of thing. So I think that's like one of the main resources that I like to use, because it breaks down a lot of it by year and by wave and all that type of thing. So like I'll even use it for like the new stuff like Earthrise. I'm like, who was in wave 3 again? I can't remember. And I just pull it up. Kinda.
Yeah, TFWiki is great for generating your own checklists if you want to. TFWiki is great for finding background info that you didn't even know you needed to know. Almost any question you could ever have, you could find the answer there. So they are an incredibly invaluable resource. Definitely the place to start. Absolutely.
I would say from a fiction standpoint, they are the most rock solid. Like that is what they care about, is the lore, the fiction, the history. But if you're trying to actually like find some really rare toys or some differences between toys, they are lacking. And their focus is not the product, although they have thousands and thousands of products listed and organized on that website. That is not what they're trying to go for.
Well, I mean, they do cover some of the more major variations, but they're not going to get into like, oh, it's Optimus Prime with a bloated fist versus a not bloated fist, and like the kind of crap that I don't care about.
Well, that's fine that you don't, but lots of other people do, and what I'm saying is they do not cater to that level.
Thank God.
Of necessity for someone that really cares for that kind of thing. And so, I've even spoken with one of the people that runs it and brought this up to him, and he's like, "Yeah, we didn't want to focus on the toys. We wanted to focus on the episodes and the comics and the characters and the factions and all the definitions and stuff, which they do an incredible job at." And I would say we have like the best wiki of any fandom, in my opinion.
I would agree with that.
I think Wikipedia is like pretty good, and there's a Star Trek one that I think is supposed to be pretty exhaustive.
Memory Alpha. Yeah.
Yeah. So I love the wiki, but like when it comes to actual toy stuff, maybe you go like, and you're talking about photography, Lucas. Sabertron has some amazing galleries. They have that Vector Sigma database. And there's a whole sightings part of their website that I think is underutilized because it's kind of clunky to use. But
I could be wrong on Saber. Like so that was one resource that I used a lot when I first got into collecting, was the Sabertron, and they have some great galleries that you can see. But have they caught up? Because it seemed like that they were really good several years ago, and I think they got a backlog of some stuff, and so then now they don't have everything. Am I wrong?
I think it's taken a back seat for a little bit. Like you used to be able to count on them to be like, this toy just was cited and here's the gallery.
Yeah.
Right.
So, but then you got TFW, which also has a pretty robust toy database. It's also a little clunky to use. It's kind of an afterthought, because TFW is mainly a message board. That's the core of what it is. They also do pretty fancy galleries, but it's like hit or miss. If they're gonna
TFW 2005 is the website.
TFW2005.com. Yes.
Yeah. So when we refer to that, just keep that on your checklist, 'cause I think we just always usually call it TFW. But that's one that, like, there's a lot of sightings on there, and there's a lot of information. The issue with it is that it's constructed like a message board. So if you want to know some good information, for example, on like how to tell different knockoffs, I know that was something that I think Paul, you were looking into before, that they had all that, but then some of the images, because it's from years ago,
Photo bucket or whatever, have rolled off into obscurity. Yeah.
Right. Or you have to comb through. Like, there's a thread 1,000 pages long. It's like, how do you find, like, I've had some stuff. There was what was the one? There was something where I was looking. Oh, the RC toy, where I was talking about like how that somebody had created that RC and that kind of used them to get in the door with Takara, and I couldn't remember who it was, and it was Kobayashi. Was the designer at Takara, but like I was telling Christian that story and he was like, I don't remember this, and I'm like, no, I swear I remember reading this in like 2016 on TFW, and so I had to like sit there and Google it for way too long to try to find.
I did the same thing with the fan poll that they did with Star Saber, because I'm like, I was sitting there battling with myself in my mind. It's like second place was. And that fan poll was Armada Prime, and another part of my mind was like, no. Then all of a sudden, I kind of beat myself when I Googled deep enough, and I found that article on TFW 2005. I'm like, I was right. Resources.
Yeah. I mean, I consider TFW and Sabertron, and I guess Allspark too. And if I'm gonna go that far, I'm gonna count Bot Talk, my favorite forum. But those are like community websites.
Yeah,
those are for interacting with other fans, and all those websites have really taken a major hit in the last like decade because of Facebook. Because now Facebook is where all that action is, and there's just all sorts of stuff all over there. And one thing that just relevant to what you guys are saying, trying to find like a news source or trying to find something that was news at one point, it's hard to find. People are posting photos of the original MP03 prototype right now, and they're like, "Is this the new Masterpiece Seeker?" It's like, dude, that's from 13 years ago.
Yeah.
And then you try to tell them what it is, and they're like, "No, I don't think so."
Well, the dude posting that was probably 10 years old at the time, so.
Oh, I know, I get it. But what I'm saying, I can't even link them to the thing explaining what it really is. It drives me nuts. That's curmudgeon, Old curmudgeon.
Just to answer a question from earlier, you had asked me how much new product has come out in the last 5 years, and I have over 2,000 items cataloged in the database from the last 5 years, so more than that.
Yeah. There you go.
Well, to round out this discussion, I wanted to also bring up TFU.info.
Yes, I wanted to bring them up as well.
I was going to do that too. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, like if you really like, that site is all about the toys. Okay?
And he's another guy who's a little behind at the moment. I think his last stuff was 2016.
Yeah.
Well, that website is like so clunky and old. Like, I mean, I love it, but like, it's really a relic of the past.
It doesn't need to be pretty or up to date or jazzy. It just needs to do the job, and boy, does it do the job.
It definitely does the job.
That's all I want.
Yeah.
But that site is amazing because the way that you can search it, like you're like, okay, I have a vintage, like there's a brown toy I remember I had as a kid, and it was a car, and I don't remember what it is, and you like are able to search by that, like brown car, whatever, cool. And it pulls up pictures of like all the brown cars, and then you're like, oh yeah, it was Chrome Dome, like that's who it was.
That's what I loved about Transformer Land was. Not only did they do that for their store, but they just had, if you needed info on a certain character, you could, and if you forgot their name, you could just be like, oh, he turned into a car. He was brown. He was from, his timestamp says 84 or whatever, and then it pulls it right up, and it gives you all different characters, and it shows you, like I said, each one to kind of jog your memory, and it's like, oh yeah, that one, because I had that way with an Armada figure a few years ago. Couldn't figure out the name for Jack Diddley Squat. Went to Transformer Land, gave in all the information I can. There you go. So, I think that's what Lucas is
Transformer Land is another resource as well, and they're also good. about now it doesn't, like someone had mentioned about that they wish that TFWiki had some of the original prices on there. One thing is they do at least have a listing on Transformerland of what they've sold the toys for, like over the last year or so. They have like a graph and it goes over the years and says, you know, kind of bounces up and down and says that, you know, 2 years ago this sold for X amount and this sold for the X amount, and it kind of lists it out too that like if it, you know, if the figure was complete or if the figure like was missing its missiles or whatever kind of thing. So that's another.
I would caution anyone against taking that as it's the gospel truth and the only truth. Yeah. Because it is just one source, and while that may be how things work for them very specifically, it may not be how things work for the rest of the. And I would say this of anybody who posts their own price guide, and it's not a shot at them. They run 100%. A great site and they're a great resource. But it's just that's the nature of your sample size. When your sample size is small, you don't get the whole picture. Yeah, and that's a thing to keep in mind if you're pricing toys based on what their information is.
Right. Well, no.
I'm glad you brought up Transformerland because like that's another level of resource because they're a store first and foremost, but they kind of have the most robust feature set beyond just buying and selling. But the stores themselves can also be pretty good resources, like TF Source, Big Bad Toy Store. You can find old listings or even find stuff you didn't know was available, and you can see what it originally sold for.
Get pulled from their customer facing side, and you can only find them on Google later.
Correct. Yep. Yeah, so Google is always your number one friend.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. I was going to say, a lot of times you can Google something. Like, if you go to, like, TFWiki and you're looking around and then you Google that term or whatnot, you can find a lot of those resources on TFW 2005 or, Big Bad Toy Store or whatever and, kind of get some more images and whatnot of it. So, I mean, a lot of times just doing a simple Google image search, you can kind of, like, back your way into, some of the sites and resources and whatnot, too.
And then there's the big dogs like eBay and Amazon. You can almost every Transformer toy that's ever existed has been listed on either of those websites. Then it's
in terms of eBay, you run into the problem of user error because everything is put up by somebody who thinks they have all the answers. Yeah. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. So
that's why when we started this, when it came to resources, I was like, there are a lot of them, and you have to kind of use the features of each one to solve your problem or your need, and some combination of all those 10 or 12 things we listed.
There's one more I'd like to get into for a moment that I think doesn't get enough love, and that's shmax.com, shmax.com. And that is just a great resource for any collector of anything because you can catalog pretty much any toy you collect there. They have an ever-expanding database of stuff, and it catalogs every variant and every, from packaging variants to actual production variants to things Paul cares about. There's all kinds of, and there's a ranking system. Maybe you've heard about this, where you can. That's
the part I literally do not care about. That's the part that I think should be thrown out the window. But that's fine.
So schmax.com, and they list all the individual parts with each toy too. They can check them off on a checklist. Checklist part is. For me.
Yeah, and I know another resource, is actually one of the cast members, Rick Alvarez, has also written a book about G1 vintage toys as well. So I was actually trying to find it, and I don't know where the heck my book's at. It's around here somewhere.
I don't have it here with me.
But yeah, that's actually like if you want something, and again, that's not perfect. It's not 100%.
There it is. Hey. That's one edition.
I was gonna say the newer edition looks different than that.
Different cover.
It's a different cover.
But I'm not a snoozer, so I got it first edition. So.
I think I have every printing of that book.
This might be the first thing I ever bought off Amazon, if I remember correctly. Yeah, because it was a book, right? That was where it was available.
Yeah.
Oh my God! Look at this picture of Rick.
Oh, here, move over a little bit.
He's a young,
move it over the other way.
Young buck.
There you go.
There you go.
Oh,
Wow.
He's got a dog and a Fort Max.
That's
Now
really
he's on
all
our
you need in life, right?
Damn right.
But I was gonna say Rick's book is a pretty good resource. Again, like if you're looking for,
I'm gonna order one now.
what the Paul, you were talking about like all the accessories and whatnot. It usually has, I believe he has all those photographed and whatnot. So I don't quote that it's 100%. There may be some, ones that are not 100% accurate, but.
I mean, it's a book. It's never going to be as exhaustive as like an
Right.
up-to-date, constantly updating digital resource. But it's just a cool thing. Like I remember loving that book. The funny thing though is he puts prices in there on something like this Inferno is worth $100, and like that gets so outdated so quick. It's just
Yep.
like,
Right.
my Fort Max is worth $250.
But it's a good resource. Like I actually like to take that with me to shows, like back when we had conventions. That you could bring that with you, and so then that way when you're checking out some loose toy in the bins, like you could tell what it is. You could tell like, oh, it's it's complete or missing its whatever accessory or something like
I'm
that.
gonna look this up.
I used to have the Cybertronian for that. You guys remember that guidebook?
Yeah, I remember those.
It was a 6-part series or something like that. It was Antarctic Press put out, was it? I can't remember.
You used to see them at comic shops in town, like all the time. Like, oh, there's that. Yeah.
I had the Tomart's Encyclopedia of Action Figures. Was the 3-volume series. Volume 2 had all the Transformer stuff. 2 or 3, maybe it was Volume 3, had all the Transformer stuff in it. But it was great because it had pictures of every single G1 toy mint and sealed box. So I was highlighting it there for a while.
Oh.
Now you're talking. Now I might have to buy that on the black market. See, Lucas, you don't need a guide to bring to shows if it's all in your head.
That's where it's
Or, if only we had some sort of transportable computer devices that we carried around with us
Right.
everywhere.
Yeah, but what resource are you going to use? For
Right.
all those ones to be listed, you're not going to get.
No,
what you
I mean
need.
that's the thing. That's the trouble is like, because I don't know. Again, Nick, like you'd mentioned about selling stuff, like some of the newer figures. You're sitting there going through like potentially eBay listings. Like if it's old enough to where it's no longer on Big Bad Toy Store or something like that. To where you're like, all right, like, is this complete? Does it have everything I need on it? Kind of thing. Because we do. I almost feel like we have more resources for G1 than you do, some of the figures that came out 5 or 10 years ago.
If I want to know if something's complete, I'm checking TFU because I know the figure name, so I just go straight there. If if they don't have it, if it's more recent than their backlog, I'll check Transformerland or I'll check Schmax. Yeah, say that 3 times fast. Schmax.
So Schmax, does that have the photos as well?
If they've been updated.
It has.
The problem is
really,
a lot of
really
they have
good
a lot of great
sometimes.
photos, but there are so many thousands of listings that they need all the photo help they can get. But they have very, very strict photo policies, like all white background and no shadow. And it's like I don't have that skill. I can't contribute. I have all the stuff to send you pictures of, but I can't send you the pictures because I can't take them. So.
Yeah, but you know what? I shouldn't say this publicly. They don't have very good SEO because they have amazing photographs on that website, and Google has no idea that they're there.
Yeah.
You have to go find them, and I was like shocked when I was there looking for like package photos recently. Like, oh my God, they're all here, all the videos.
Yeah.
This is, and they look amazing, and they're like 2,000 by 2,000 pixels. This is great.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, Schmax is worth checking out. It's worth putzing around on there. Everything we listed has a value. There's a lot of these websites that like do the same thing as the other website, but they each have their own little special tools or talents that are good. Like again, Sabertron, I think their strength is the Vector Sigma database, which is more. It's kind of like TFWiki is maybe a little more exhaustive. But like if you want to know which characters were in every episode, that's a good way to do it. Plus they have the amazing photos and it's consistent. Like the photos are consistent. That's
the thing about the photos is that they are from every conceivable angle. So like if you've got a figure and it's like it looks like there's a part missing, but it's not an accessory, it's just a piece. How do I figure out what that piece is? you can see the different angles on Cybertron, whereas you won't get that on TFU or Transformerland.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things I have used Cybertron site for, very specifically, is I buy a box of chowder and I have to sort it out, and I go, I don't know what goes there. It's clearly a peg. It's clearly missing something.
So that's like it's almost like you can blanket solve your first problem by looking at, like, say, TFU, but like if you need a better view of this toy and you know what it is now because you found out from doing the search on TFW or TFU,
or
then you can try to find that toy on Cybertron. or on TFW's photo stuff too. Actually, here's the thing. On TFW, they have a good repository of, like, the official product photography, which is very different than, like, your own gallery of some stuff. Like, I kind of want to find, how Hasbro presented this product sometimes, back in, like, 2008.
Mistransformed and all.
Yeah. I want to know. And it's
like one figure was showed with a stack of dimes. I think that was like Studio Series Brawl.
Wait, really?
Yeah, he had like a stack of dimes underneath one of his feet just to hold him up.
God, that's
You're gonna find it.
Yeah, but see, like, it needs to be saved for posterity. So it's nice that there are places to find it when you do want to find it.
And I will say also, I mean, YouTube is a resource as well that pretty much every Transformer, I mean, not everyone, but a lot of the Transformers figures, especially if it's come out in the last 10 years, has a review for it. And so a lot of the top reviewers, like the guys that have been there forever, like, P.I. and MGO and Optibotimus and Vault Matrix, and those guys have been doing it for since YouTube started. That you can see a lot of the same information, and you can also, like, research to see whether or not you like the toy, like whether or not it's a transformation that you like, get their opinions on it, all that type of thing as well. So I mean, you could spend days on YouTube just looking at different reviews and whatnot of some of these toys.
Hey, I've got a note for any reviewers out there. If you're watching this, could you, like, just show all the parts in one screenshot and make my job really easy? That would be helpful.
Right. There you go. We'll have to pass that along.
Yeah.
So now that we've exhausted the amount of resources out there for wannabe collectors or new collectors or people new to this, what do we discuss now?
Well, there's more than just what resources. Like, where would you go from there? If you were a guy starting your collection today, what's the first thing you'd go out and buy?
I'd go to Target first, since they have everything now.
Pretty much.
Or Walmart.
I'd go to Toys R Us.
Oh.
Tear going down the side of my face.
So yeah, I would get myself a big pile of loot at Big Bad Toy Store personally.
Yeah.
If that, like, whatever, if you had a huge chunk of money burning a hole in your pocket and wanted to, after going and figuring out what I wanted, do that. So.
Sure.
Or
Just breathing
Hasbro
into
Pulse,
that
I guess,
microphone.
is another one too.
See, now there you go. There's a great place to start. Everything is retail, and it's going to be current stuff that's in stock, and, it's a great place to start. Sure, absolutely.
I mean, I guess I would suggest looking through, like, you gotta have a focus. You can't most people just buy one toy and they get addicted and they start buying stuff. I mean, if I had to start right now, especially with the show coming out on Thursday, I'd be like, yo, these are the best Transformers toys of all time, debatably, and I would start there, and I'd probably say start with the Netflix. If you watch the show would be my first suggestion. If you like the show, which I have no idea if anyone's gonna like the show, then I mean, that's kind of where it all begins, right? The fiction, usually, fiction kind of can dictate where you're going to go. And so maybe, you want some of those toys, and they look exactly like the toys, which is kind of a new. I mean, it's not like 100% new, but like the paradigm has shifted from like the G1 days. So maybe starting with the Walmart Netflix series is the way to go, because they're going to be the most screen accurate of the current modern stuff.
Sure.
But
that's
the way,
the thing is, if you were a
suggestion.
new collector, something has drawn you in. Something has made you go, wow, I really like these Transformers. And maybe it's you saw a friend's Facebook post, or maybe it's you absorbed some of the media, whether it be a cartoon or a movie or, a comic even, because people still read comics, right? I think it's very rare that you walk into the toy shop and go, oh, hey, that thing is cool, I will now buy it. I think it's more that you have some other exposure, and that leads you to the collecting part. And so where you start, I think, depends on what drew you in.
And I think the other thing with that is like the first thing really, and the thing I wish I had done myself, I'm sure we probably have all been there, that like figure out what your collecting goals are. When you first start out, you don't have any goals. You're like, oh, it's Transformers, and I will buy them all. And I'm, and so for most people,
what's that Queen song? I want it all.
That's not a good path. As Nick mentioned, just this thing's been going on for 30 years. In just the last 5 years, he's cataloged 2,000 items. So, like, set limits for yourself, and whatever piece of Transformers fiction like interests you the most, like figure out your collection around that. So like if you really like the Transformers movies, like figure out like what movie stuff you're going to collect. Or if you really like the again, like you said, like the Netflix stuff, like figure out like that kind of thing. If you really like the older stuff,
it's okay when you're starting out, if you want to buy a couple of different things from here and there, just to figure out what they are and what you like. Buy a couple of different things and go, oh, okay, I really like this, but wow, those Cyberverse toys are not for me. They don't do what I want them to do. And just, you kind of get a feel for what it is you like and you don't like. But as time goes on, you absolutely must. You absolutely must make... You're killing me, Paul. You absolutely must make rules for yourself, or you will wind up like me. Don't do that.
Right.
Set limits, set rules, set goals. But in order to get there, you got to understand what you're doing, and that may require you to buy some other stuff you wouldn't have previously. And then don't be afraid to turn around and sell it, because there will always be another collector that you can flip that stuff to. It's like, look, this wasn't for me. I'm just looking to break even. Help me out. Or if you get lucky, you make a few bucks.
Never sell. Never.
Never sell anything. No,
selling is a part of this that I think needs to be brought up. Yeah.
Sure, but and this is probably where we're going with this. What you don't want to turn it into is maybe renting all your toys, where like you buy them for the season, and then you go, okay, I'm buying the next season. I'm selling these now. It's like, because then at some point you're losing money.
I mean, honestly, I don't think that that's a horrible thing, because otherwise, like, say that you end up with like a lot of storage bins, like sitting around, and
I guess there are trade-offs, huh?
But
bin life.
I don't know. Like, I know, like for myself, right? Exactly. I've been there where like the movie figures, like that's really not my like the goal of my collection, and yet somehow I keep buying them, and it'll be something where like I'm not buying them this time, and then they put them all on clearance, and then I buy them all, and then I have a pile of regret that I sell for even less. And I'm like, what was I doing? Like, what was I thinking? Like, I did it again. Like, I keep doing it, and I don't understand.
Thanks, Studio Series. You jerks.
I typically do not like the idea of renting toys either, Nick. But I mean, like, who am I to say that's not okay? Because honestly, you might be losing a little bit of money here and there, but you're making some back, and it actually probably keeps you net. It probably keeps you more like. It probably keeps you closer to net positive than like binning everything for 20 years. maybe. But I mean, because it's 20 years is like, you can't really put a monetary value to that, you know. And I don't think the toys appreciate that much to make it worth it.
It's all going into the sarcophagus with me.
I feel like how many of us are really looking at the time value of money, Paul? Like, if that's going into your stuff, you probably are not going to be a collector at all if you're worried about that.
Yeah, I mean, this discussion comes up at kind of a weird time. Like, I've been really negative on collecting the past 2 weeks. Just really, and I don't want to make that the discussion, but I think there's ways to be healthy about it. And if you're starting from scratch, you got to learn this stuff the hard way, which is unfortunate. You know, you have to spend $1,000 all of a sudden. I see it on the sub. We didn't mention the Transformers subreddit because it's like the worst resource of all time. But like every other day, I see someone on there like, "Oh man, I accidentally spent my whole paycheck on all these new Transformers." And they're like,
it didn't even occur to me that there was a Transformers subreddit. It totally. I guess that's a thing that exists, right?
It's not good. Don't.
They try. I think the admins try, but they do some dumb stuff too. But like, it's like this. People jump into this real quick sometimes. They jump in head first and they like find all these masterpiece toys they didn't know exist. I mean, it's like overwhelming.
Yes.
If you like,
is really cool, but Jesus Christ, live within your means.
Well, and then you got third party stuff, and people just like. I feel like that's where the silliest choices get made is with that stuff. But.
Well, there are some hard lessons with third party. For a long time, the trick was don't buy third party when it first comes out because it's all going to get sold dirt cheap later, either when the new version comes out or the official version comes out or when the reissue happens and stuff gets clearanced. And so you had a lot of people who would jump into things right away and then get burned and then get mad that they got burned.
But then it's kind of flipped.
It's different now.
Yeah, now it's flipped where if you don't immediately go jump on the Fans Toys pre-order, you're paying the snoozing tax, and it's you know,
you'll
whatever.
never see it again for a good price.
Double, exactly. Double what it was. And so now that's kind of flipped. And the other thing you're seeing a lot with like third party, especially third party Masterpiece, is these companies have been making this stuff for over 5 years themselves. And so, and some of these characters, like, I mean, the top list characters you have a problem getting, but then, you know, some of these characters like Bad Cube mini bots, like you can't find some of those. And then people are paying like way, you know, over retail or whatever for those. And then again, kind of like we said, Fans Toys makes it, puts it out a new one, and then that version, you know, people are selling and that price goes way down and whatnot too. So I mean, I think that third party, like if your goal is to have the best representation and have Masterpiece characters, you're gonna have to go Transformers, Takara Masterpiece, and Hasbro Masterpiece, right? And if you want to have all the G1 characters, you're going to have to fill that in with third party because like Hasbro and Takara have not made everything yet.
You just have to wait. You just have to be a patient person.
And that's true of everything in collecting. Patience is such a virtue. It is so clutch. It's just key. Like, okay, so these third-party toys are like super expensive right now, right? Well, just wait 6 months to a year and some other company will do one. And it'll be okay. You don't need to spend $400 on what was a $50 toy. Don't do it.
The one thing I would say is that for stuff that is not retail, like is not readily available and whatnot, be patient. Be patient. Like if you see something, don't just buy the first thing on eBay that you see if it's not a good price. Like if you see it for a really high price, like it may be something. And honestly, it's good to have a grail or a goal or whatever kind of thing to where you can't get it immediately and hold off on getting it because eventually someone's going to sell it somewhere, you know, whether or not it's for a decent price on eBay, you know, and you can set some different alerts on eBay and whatnot for
I got a story like this.
Sure.
I actually just found this figure yesterday actually.
Yeah.
It was one I've been looking for 5+ years. Actually, I think since 2011. So, even when it's loose, it was going for like $250, and all of a sudden I find out last night it's complete in box, and he's only asking $80. So it's like,
Dude.
the weight totally pays off. Because I mean, I even bought something from Sergio, the same thing. I've been looking for it for over just about 10 years, and then next thing you know, he's like, "Oh yeah, $50 sound okay? Okay."
What'd you get?
So it's just like, the thing I got from Sergio was the Fans Project Protect, like the City Commander armor.
Nice.
Okay.
Yeah.
Uh,
Sure.
That gets kind of insane sometimes.
Really? Wow.
It did for a little bit.
It's
But then the other,
It's like the
thing
first, man. It's a big deal.
Yeah. Yeah, and then the
No.
thing I found last night was the Amazon exclusive Unicron,
Nice.
25th anniversary of the movie.
uh-huh.
Yeah,
That one
dude.
goes for like $250 loose. I
Yeah.
found one on eBay. There are a couple like them loose without the box. Insane.
Mhm.
The next thing you know, I find one for $80. So it's like the weight
That's awesome.
can pay off. So
I
Here's
agree.
what you don't
Patience
do:
matters.
is don't shop on Wish. No matter what anybody tells you, don't do that.
There is also a flip side to being patient. Like, you can really, like, when opportunity knocks, and you have to be kind of seasoned to know when it's knocking, like, you need to buy it when you see
Yeah.
it. So that it doesn't go for everything, but you know, if there's something, like you said, if you've been looking for something for 5 years, I mean, I've been on the hunts for stuff for 15 years. So it's like, if it comes up, it's like, it's mine. I don't care. I mean, there is a limit,
There are
obviously.
price limits,
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
But then again, that's because I've been collecting for 15 years. So that advice doesn't really work for someone that's just jumping in. Like,
Right.
they don't need to care about something that's 20 years old that only 10 of are out there, you know. that takes you need to baby step up to that. That would be my recommendation, at least. You can, if you're Kanye West and you want to become the best Transformer collector of all time, I mean, hey, go for it. But
You want to fight?
yes.
Do you want to fight?
I feel like that you should just you don't actually have to have the best Transformers collection of all time. You just need to contact like some type of media source that has no idea and that can write a story about how you have the best Transformers collection, even though it pales in comparison to like 100 other people.
talking
Wasn't
about
there that one guy over
Guinness
like
guy?
Yeah.
the UK or something? He's had only like what 2,000 figures, and he's like, "Oh, it's
There's
the
a
biggest in the
couple.
world." It's like,
Yeah, there's
no.
been a few. There's been a couple different people like that. So
Those are rookie numbers. You got to pump up those numbers.
Damn right.
Oh God.
So, but yeah, no, I do agree with that, Paul, as well, that if you see it, you know, like I know Rodimus in the chat had mentioned about getting a reissue Astra Train. You know, I'm assuming he got that on clearance at Walmart for like $25. So it's the same way that like
I'm gonna get mine
if you're
tomorrow,
waiting
maybe.
for like your Soundwave and they clearance that out and you see it on clearance for, you know, whatever price, like if that's something you want, go ahead and pick it up because it may not be there tomorrow because, you know, someone like Paul's like went and bought them all up. So because
You can clearance wait all you want, but at some point that pendulum swings back the other way. It might be the pattern for a while, but at some point Hasbro cuts production numbers and things never hit clearance anymore. And then then the production run is too short and you got to chase it for more money.
Well, you
So
know,
that
ironically,
pendulum's gonna
that
keep
happened.
swinging more
That
you
happened
wait.
with Skywarp. That with that Siege Skywarp, where
Ooh.
all these people waited for it to go on clearance, and it didn't. And then, like people were
I
flipping
remember
out.
that. What the?
Right. I mean, that indicates that we are in an upswing. It's been a while since like Age of Extinction. You know, that movie kind of like tanked the brand for a while in that way. They were overproducing stuff and like and everything, all that Platinum Series stuff was clearancing, and you know, it kind of goes in cycles. And last night didn't help. Bumblebee helped a little bit, but they really pulled back on Bumblebee. And they started the Studio Series and they started War for Cybertron around then, and we're really on an upswing now. Like this whole 2020 thing with. I think there's just more collectors now than there ever have been.
Yeah.
And there's been people with like extra income because they're not spending it on stuff they used to spend it on instead of
Can't
saving
go
it,
out
which
places.
they should be doing.
Yeah, exactly.
And they're buying it, they're spending toys, and then all these people. There's also a bunch of people trying to make a quick buck because they're out of jobs or something, and so like these shoe guys have transferred over, whatever their tactics are, have transferred over to toy collecting now. And so all of these exclusive releases are just, it's just a crazy fest. And now you have to go into the store to get the stuff, which is like dangerous to begin with. And they're just not making, they made the decision to make them how much stuff they're selling now, like a year and a half ago. So there's always like a leapfrog effect. And we're right in the middle of they're underproducing things. And the demand is probably double what it was when they made the decision.
Right.
So just as a new collector, like avoid exclusives. Like just try to not need those if you can.
Yeah.
Well, I think in general, for whatever reason, like I think Hasbro, like specifically their Generations line and the Studio Series line, both, like I think that the fact that they were numbering the Studio Series and then they've done these other lines where they've been somewhat cohesive and fit together, and they've done these trilogies. And so then a lot of people that jump in, like you saw this with the last trilogy, where people that jumped in Power of the Primes are like, oh shoot, I need Combiner Wars too. And so then they were going back and buying the so the stuff that was like on clearance, whatever Combiner Wars stuff, a couple years later and even now is going for a lot more. Like, one of the things, like the Combiner Wars combiners,
Alpha Bravo,
like all of those are going for crazy money. Like I was just looking this up on eBay before the show, and it's like the all these combiners are going for like around $200, like, and that's loose, like 150 to 200. And then if you want a mint and seal box, like, I mean, that's even more than that for some of these combiners, which is like, I don't know. It's crazy to think that, that some of this is going up that much. But, like, if you're getting into, again, if you're new to this collection, to Earthrise or whatever, and you're like, oh, shoot, like, in order to get, go with my, G1 cast, I really want a Superion, well, that's your only option.
Yep. $200 for a Superion on eBay right now. They're getting up.
It was good. It was a good product. What do you want me to, I mean, Hasbro did their job well.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I think they're doing it even better right now, and that's why my initial suggestion was start with the current product.
Yeah.
Start
100%.
with the zeitgeist right now, which is definitely War for Cybertron. Most of the Siege stuff is not on shelves, but if you go to Walmart, the show accurate stuff is there. You could also try jumping in with the Red series, which is not out yet, which is a whole new paradigm of Transformers, like, concepts for us, non-transforming Transformers, which some people think is sacrilege, but I think it's a great chance, a great time and opportunity to try something new.
It's a great crossover for like the Marvel Legends collector. If you have previously done the Marvel Legends thing, maybe that's your in. Maybe you start with Red.
That kind of reminds me of
Star Wars Black Series. Was that?
No, what they're doing with Red kind of reminded me of another line that they did. It was like the PVC. I can't remember
SCF.
the name.
It was
Yeah,
the
but
SCF
that was
Super
Japan.
Collection. Yeah, that was Japan,
Yep.
but they were cool.
They were cool. It was the first time we'd ever gotten something like that was like super hyper accurate to the show and had like weird accessories, but they were so small and not really articulated that it's hard to kind of put those in the same bucket.
Not the little ones, the non-articulated. They did articulated figures
those
were
bad.
Mega Super Collection figures.
There you
I
go,
think.
the Mega SCF. That's the word.
Yep.
And they only made like 8.
Yeah, but they were cool. I have all those.
I mean, for the time, they were like, "Wow, neat," but like the joints on them are pretty bad.
Are they?
You've never opened one, have you, Nick?
Wow, it's been almost 20 years, dude.
Yeah, somewhere in that way.
They're in a bin. They've been in a bin for at least 15.
But yeah, I mean, the other thing to realize too is again, like, they are going to remake most of these characters. Like, I know I have, another friend of the show, Tony, locally, he's asked a lot about some of these movie figures, like from the 86 movie, and he's like, oh, I really want a good Blur. Like, should I, go ahead and splurge on the Takara LG one? And whatnot, and I'm like, dude, just wait. Like, they're gonna
6
make
months.
one. Like, yeah, I was gonna say, wait. It might be a year from now. Like, whatever. But they're gonna make it. Like, don't worry. If you're looking for a good Optimus Prime, like, just wait. Wait a couple months. They're gonna release another one. Another Megatron is coming. Like, that's where I thought it was funny with the Skywarp that people were freaking out. And I think was the Earthrise. Like, it still maintained a high price after the Earthrise.
Dude, it's at an
right?
all-time high right now.
And it makes no sense because you're like,
because you want to complete that set,
right.
and you can't.
No, I know.
It's
right.
it's
your set.
It's the Cybertronian version, which is actually cool. Like those Tetrajet molds were not only awesome, like they're probably a one and done mold.
Yeah.
Yep.
No.
Like it's only going to get worse over time.
Right.
So buckle up.
So, yeah, and that's the thing that's kind of unique with Transformers too is that, there's 1,000 different variations of each one of the characters too. If you want to get into, we haven't even discussed variant collecting or character collecting. Like, I know some people do that. So you want, like, I know, Paul, that you have quite a Starscream collection and Grimlock, and I'm trying to think some of the other ones you have.
Yeah, I was gonna bring that up at some point. Like, character collecting is a way to
narrow the focus.
It definitely narrows the focus, and it depends if like you are, like, if you're a completist in some fashion or not. Because if you're a completist, then like there's levels of completionism. But like doing the character collector thing helps because you can be completist from like a time point and then go forward to now. And then, like, you're kind of caught up. And then as that character gets released, you can buy just that one guy over and over again. But they all look a little different. Like, I just got the Seeker set to get this Ghost Warrior Starscream, which is actually pretty cool. Like,
that's
I'm
a cool
into
looking
it.
Starscream.
Yeah,
It was a much better Starscream than the first one in that line, that's for sure.
Yeah, I like the Cybertronian version. I have the regular one over there, but I mean, so unfortunately, to get that Starscream, I had to get the gift set, which means I now have 3 Seekers to sell. But the beauty of that is I can pay for the set by selling those 3 guys. So,
but
that's
they're
a whole
also
nother
pretty
side.
and translucent. You don't need to keep them.
No, because I don't collect Skywarp, I don't collect Thundercracker, and I certainly don't collect Thrust. But someone out there does.
Sure.
And they might need those guys. The Skywarp is cool. It's also clear, just like the Starscream.
Yeah.
But I mean, character collecting, I love it, but I also I went into it knowing what I was getting into. I picked one of like the major characters, and I kind of just made this decision for myself because I thought I was getting too much stuff, and I didn't like the way like. I'm not ragging on either of you guys' backgrounds here, but like I don't like it when there's a bunch of different toys together that like all look crazy in different sizes and whatnot. I like it better when it's a little more homogeneous. So when you do collect a character, there's kind of like a color similarity, and you can like put them chronologically, or you can put them by size class. And there's kind of like a uniformity to the display, and the ones that look really crazy, that are like a wacky deco or something, stand out, and they almost like draw your attention in a different way than when everything is totally haphazard. So aesthetically, I like the way the result comes out, but still, like picking a character like Starscream, you're still going to end up, even at a complete collection, you're still going to end up with like 300 toys. And that's just wild. So I would recommend, if someone gets into the fiction and they find a toy they like or a character they like from like IDW Comics or the new show or something, like you're lucky if suddenly Hound is cool, because like there's only a handful of Hound toys, and you could actually complete that journey in like a few years maybe.
But can you imagine though, like, say that you got into it at like in 2006, and you said, "Man, I remember I had a Bumblebee when I was a kid. I'm gonna be a character collector for Bumblebee." Back then, like before the movie came out, can you imagine how horrible your life would be now? Like, how many Bumblebees are there? Like,
yes, I can imagine that.
Is that one of them?
Because I made a calculated choice to start collecting Bumblebee before that film because I knew he was going to become a popular character, and I wanted to get them all before the movie came out. And I did not realize there were going to be 5,000 Bumblebees afterwards. That was what I did not realize.
I mean, he's like the star of like every show now. Like, I mean, I don't know. I'm sure he's a close second to Optimus Prime now at this point. I don't know.
Oh, no.
Are there more Starscreams than Bumblebees overall, Paul? Or
no, I think there's more Bumblebees now.
Has the most votes of anything.
Yep, I think Nick's right.
No question.
That's when you, at the last minute, change your decision to Cliff Jumper.
Yeah. I mean, almost every character has like one really hard get. You know, like Cyclonus is a good one, like because there's two variants of the G1 version. Plus, if you can find the Target Master one, those are all really hard to find toys. Then there's the BotCon Cyclonus.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, yeah, like almost every character. If you do the character collecting thing, there aren't a lot that have like they're all easy to do. Like there's always like one kind of hard to find toy, which is why I think makes it fun, because you still have different levels of ease of getting stuff, which is part of the collecting experience.
well, I think too is like you define your own collection. Don't let others define your collection. So when Paul's talking all this variant nonsense, don't worry about him. Like, don't worry about that. Like,
I get
what I was
a
gonna
lot of grief about his particulars about variants.
right?
He gives me kind of grief about how I buy everything.
What I was gonna say is like you're
what you like.
Yes.
Don't pay attention to what any of these other goons ever say to you.
right.
You
So
like is the
like,
important part.
you know, like it doesn't make you a true fan to, you know, one versus the other. It's like whatever you like. So like if you want to cap your collection at like I want to do US stuff, I'm not going to do Takara stuff, or I'm not going to do, you know, whatever, something like that. Like that's on you, and it's whatever you want to do. So like don't let other people, like, because I feel like a lot of it, especially for those of us have been in it for a long time, is like you just want to keep up with the Joneses and whatever. And so then, you know, you find yourself chasing stuff that you wouldn't chase otherwise. And it's really for you. Like, no one else cares about that, you know. I mean, I guess that there might be a few people that they're like, oh, yeah, that's cool. But, like, ultimately, don't go and spend, you know, ridiculous amounts of money because, like, to impress someone else. It's for you.
Yeah.
It's not for not for someone else.
I want to get a girlfriend with my collection.
No one cares about your collection except you. That is
damn right.
Definitely the truth.
I can guarantee you. I'm sure that all, you know, our wives or significant others or, you know, girlfriends, whatever, do not care about, like, they can care less.
He
It's
may
like,
be a nerd, but I still love him.
About that, Tiffany
Like-
tells the story. The first time she walked into my house, 9 years ago now, she looked around and went, I need to make a decision right now if I'm going forward from here. That's a lot of robots, and I need to figure out if we're going forward. And luckily she did. So 9 years later.
Right.
But, you know, and she collects too. She's got her own collections. And for a
Right.
minute, she was even collecting some Transformers too. She has a small animated collection because she really liked that. So,
I just always wonder, Paul, like, when you get a new item, like, say that you got something from Artfire, you know, or whatever, and you open up your box, you get it from, you know, wherever, and you open it up, and you're like, honey, I got, like, whatever, and she's just like,
She just
how is
looks
this,
at you like,
how is
"What
this
are you
different
doing?"
than this other
Has
thing
no
that
idea.
you...
Like,
Tiffany likes to just hear the stories about why this one's important to me.
No, I keep her out of it. I keep her safe.
Right.
And I don't buy stuff from Art. I've only bought stuff from Artfire once. So
just like whatever. But
well, I mean, the reason I'm into that stuff, and this is not relevant to the conversation, but it's because I've been doing this since I was like in high school, back in the '90s. So it's like my tastes have the normal stuff doesn't really do it for me anymore. But then I like see the postings of guys like, Fred from DairyCon and Maz, who like they're like, hey, guess what? 100%. Did you know all these variants exist? I bet you didn't. Here you go. Here's my weird website that shows you. And I'm like, I can eat. I started eating that stuff up. And it's not like they weren't telling you to go for it, but they're at least being like, this is out there. I found it. If you want to try to find it, good luck. It's really hard to find.
That's what I like about Fred. He's got some good stuff.
Yeah. And so, it's not like I'm doing it to compete with them, but I like respect the way they care about the thing I care about, and it made me appreciate it in a different way. And I'm like, I want some of this stuff. I want a Thundercracker and a G1 Starscream box that says Milton Bradley on it. Like, that would be super cool. That's like the next only thing I'm missing at this point. So like, and there's pictures of it on Maz's website, and so I always call him Sensei. I wouldn't even know what it was or what him. He's he's
Show
awesome.
Me the way of the former.
yeah, no, I mean Maz is awesome, and like some of the what he's done for the Transformers community in general. He runs the TF Square One, I think, is it right? So it's on Facebook.
On Facebook.
There's the blog on
Facebook
TF Source as well.
But
so I think he's moved that over
there,
to. I think he's actually moved that TF Source blog over to 6.0. I think has kind of taken that over. He's done a few guest things, but again, he's one of those people that he's been in it so long, and now other life things have taken priority with him, with his family, and all that type of thing. And so, but yeah, no, it's again, I'm not there with my collection, but I love, some of the things that you show off and that Rick shows off and Peter and, all the different people that I've met over the years that just have some of this wild and crazy stuff that they come up with that you have no idea that the, South American variant of some mini bot and whatnot that you show off is just, it's amazing because like you said, like, it's stuff that is not cataloged, and that if you guys, it's almost like you're finding new treasure kind of thing, and you're like, I had no idea this came out here.
Yeah, it's definitely a small subculture, and it's like a new collector should be nowhere near that stuff because like it's gonna scare them away. They're not gonna appreciate it, and like
they'll fall in love and spend too much money too fast.
Right. Oh yeah.
Yep.
Right.
And that does happen.
Overpay.
There are some.
Right.
Don't overpay. Do your research before you overpay for anything.
But
do your research. But if you don't do your research, overpay all you want.
But I do think
that's your problem.
A lot of those
that's my
guys,
problem when you drive up my prices.
Like a lot of you guys are invaluable resources, though, because again, like if you're looking for something specific that you can tell the difference between whatever. Like I know Maz has done that, like where he did the article on hot rods and he showed every reissue hot rod that's ever come out and like the differences between each one as they've come out through the years. And like, again, that's something that like, if you're a new person, you're like, I don't care. I just need a hot rod, like, whatever. And you don't care. And you buy it for, $20-$30 or whatever. It's cool, but then as like you said, you're getting into like more the end game, or if you're thinking about buying like a grail, like if you're thinking about buying a high-end mint and seal box Starscream whatever, and you have no idea what you're doing, and you're like, I just bought the Walmart reissue, but way overpaid.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure there's some of those people out there.
This is not a plug to me, but I have like one of the most trafficked things on my blog that I see posted kind of often is this really snarky post I made that I got pissed when some guy bought Back in the day, I used to look. I had enough time on my hands. I would just look at eBay all the time. Okay, before there were 25,000 Transformer products to look at. So there was a KO of the Diaclone Starscream called King Dam 6 Starscream, and I saw someone buy one for $500, and I screen capped it, and I made this blog post like, "Attention, idiots! This is not what you're supposed to do." So I basically did what
me life.
what you're saying, Maz did. He kind of like made a little resource blog for someone that might be searching for hot rods. I basically did a real mean post about like why you should not, but why basically these KOs affect why I don't like KOs is because stuff like this happens.
Yep.
You know, people get confused, and the differences are there, but you got to know, and you have to be looking for them.
And when we say KOs, we mean knockoffs. When we say KOs, it means knockoffs, and those are like in China, they will make variants. They will take the molds and they will like try to make the figure as close as possible to the original figure.
Blow 'em
and
up,
so
scale.
there's ones where like this was an issue several years ago with a lot of the G1 figures, like the G1 Dinobots. If you find some G1 Dinobots in great looking shape, they're probably Chinese knockoffs. But they did that with with Computron. They did that with the Reflector,
Sunstreaker and Mirage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so there's certain ones where Hasbro has not reissued those, where for whatever reason these guys, have not, and I don't know what they did to knock it off or whatever. But yeah, that's something to definitely look out for and make sure that you're doing your research again. And if it's something where it's cheap and you don't care, that's fine. But, make sure that you're not getting swindled, because if you go and try to resell it down the road and the guy you're selling it to, like you said, that this is an authentic, product, and, the guy you sell it to is like, nope, that's a knockoff. Like, you're going to lose that if it is a knockoff. So make sure that you know what you're buying.
Yeah, everyone acts like, Masterpiece KOs are I'm going to wait for the KO. It's cheaper. It's great. Like, okay, that's great for the now, but 10 years down the road, oh my God, are we in for some trouble? Like, this is going to be a real shit show, for lack of a better term. Mm-hmm. Because just like the Kingdom Starscream, that one's it's got some pretty obvious tells. We're talking about a 30-year-old knockoff that is desirable in its own way, but the thing it's knocking off is about 20 times more desirable, and the price reflects it. Right. And so most people don't think about the end, when you talk about the end game, like, what are you going to do when you're done with this stuff, or you pass away and your family has to deal with it? Like,
they're not going to know what's real and what's not. It's all going to get dumped back into the market, and people are going to get screwed.
People get screwed, and people get upset, and then you think you have something and you don't, and you look like a fool, especially publicly on the internet now. Like I thought I bought a Bape MP10 from somebody the other day on Facebook, and then we figured out it was a KO. Like, after I'd paid him, and I was like, yeah, I need that money back, bro. Like, don't send me that. But there's not a good resource for identifying the differences between KOs and real ones. So, unfortunately, that's still under construction. But beware for KOs. That's why if you just buy the new stuff at the store,
you ain't got to worry about it.
Don't got to worry about any of this stuff.
That's the trouble.
Hardcore collector stuff.
Yeah. I mean, that's why a lot of my Masterpiece stuff that I've always bought it from, when it came out, or I bought it from Big Bad Toy Store or something like that, to where like I know what I'm getting is original and not a knockoff.
I was going to say, because that was another thing I was going to bring up with, if you're on eBay looking for stuff, is also be careful for Masterpieces if you decide to go into that, because they'd have like Sideswipe and Prawl and all those, usually $80, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, I found one for $40, I got a good deal.
No, you didn't.
No, it's most likely a knockoff. So it's like,
Bizzle bound.
That's why when it's
you got to beware when you're buying from China. You got to beware when you're buying off a Wish, because those are your two biggest sources of knockoffs right there.
Yep. I always try to look at the details from wherever they're shipping, and if I can't find those details, or if I'm just not really comfortable with that, I just get the more expensive stuff off a well-known site. Like, I just mainly get my masterpieces from Big Bad. So
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes you want the KOs. Like, there's a total market of people that want to collect KOs, and especially these old G1 crazy KOs, you know.
Yeah.
But typically, those people know what they're buying.
Yeah.
That's another level of
Right.
refinement.
But I think, again, it's something where, I mean, you've seen it where people buy a mix of both in their collection. They're just like, I'll just, whatever's available. And then when they go to resell it, they forget, like, what's a knockoff and what's not, and, whatever, too. So I think it's also just make sure that you're asking, like, if you are buying things loose or used and whatnot, make sure and ask for, lots of
around.
questions. Ask lots of questions. Like, if the pictures do not show it well enough, like, make sure to
Ask for better pictures.
ask for better pictures, because I've had that myself where I bought vintage stuff and then on eBay and whatever, and they didn't have pictures of the backside of the toy, and it turns out the backside was broken, and so then I have to go and file respond to them and say, hey, you didn't put this in your listing, and
item not as described.
Right, and they try to say, oh, well, if you can see in the shadow here, like, you can clearly see it was cracked, even though I didn't say anything.
It's like, buddy, just come on, just give me my money back, man.
Please, I want my money.
But, yeah. So I think the big thing is just be patient, do lots of research. Right, is probably the main thing.
Yeah.
In terms of expensive items and, vintage, but, not current items. That's what I'm trying to say. Do your research first. If you're just buying off the shelf, you ain't got to worry about it.
You don't have to worry about that as much. But
And use all the resources we spent the first half hour talking about. And if none of those suit you, like to figure out the difference between KOs and stuff, then you go to the forums or you go to God forbid, Facebook groups, but you might get your quickest response turn around there. But also,
what's the best way to get the right answer on the internet? Put up the wrong one?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But I mean, I will say in general, so the Facebook groups, like when we talked about, like, there's various Facebook groups that are friendlier than others. And so, like, for example, like, our Facebook group typically, like, we're not going to be snarky and, whatever.
Not until we know you.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
I was going to say.
With
really
each other, we will be. But, like, with other people and whatnot, like, we're not going to be super snarky and whatnot. But there are, like, lots of groups where I've had friends where we have local Facebook groups that are based in my area, and then they go and join, like, the Cybertron Cafe or something like that, and they're just like, oh my god, like, what happened, like, my so yeah, I think that just make sure, like, don't be afraid to like, if you join different groups, to like, leave them as well if they're not, like, kind of the type
if
of
the group
group
sucks,
that you...
bail.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
I mean, you're right, Lucas. You reach out to us, join us on Discord and ask the question, and you're going to get at least 3 or 4 responses that are, like, trying to be helpful. At least from the staff. I can't claim what the fans will say.
Peter and I will do our best to get to your questions in a timely fashion.
I might answer back in like 2 days, but at least it's an answer.
Yeah.
So my question also is that if we had to start again, if we were, going down this journey and you got rid of everything yourself and had to, start from square one, what would you collect?
I wouldn't. If I had to start again, I wouldn't. I would just stop. It's too much to lose. That would be it for me. I would walk away and I would stick to just, like, physical media, DVDs, cartoons, video games, comics, maybe video games. But I probably wouldn't go back into figures if I lost it all tomorrow.
So what pushes you? So, like, if you weren't willing to restart it, like, what's pushing you to continue now?
All or nothing, baby.
Inertia.
That's my brain damage. All or nothing.
Yeah.
So
I mean, let's say that I was able to make peace with it and I was able to get to a place where I could mentally start over.
Right.
I would start with just, all right, here is my Transformers collection. I've got one of each character, and it's the best representation of each one, and they're all in scale, because that would make me happy. To the best that I could do it.
So is that Masterpiece then?
Hell no.
So you're just going to continue to chase the dragon, is what you're saying?
No, it would be like one of each figure in a chug scale. I would rebuy a Henkei Optimus Prime, and I'd start with that.
Why would you do that? There's Earthrise Optimus Prime.
Because that's my favorite one of the mold of the character. That is still my favorite Optimus Prime.
You said you wanted the best,
It
not
is
your
the best.
favorite.
Say it's better than this?
I think so, yeah. Either Henkei or Cloud. We've talked about this. I love that figure.
Cloud,
Yeah?
Oh, yeah.
Fair point.
So, Jack, what would you do?
I think I'd have to go with Nick. Just be done. With the amount of stuff I do outside of the collection, I don't think I would be able to afford it again. Because I mean, with me traveling, that'd be kind of hard. Because I obviously have to pay for expenses for like hotels, other stuff, food, gas, all that. Bowling tournaments, if you know me, I gotta pay entry fee somehow, because I ain't gonna bowl for free. It'd be nice, but that ain't gonna happen. Obviously gotta get all the equipment I need for that, which is insanely expensive. It's more expensive than this stuff. Way more. Trust me. So, yeah, I just kind of want to focus on something else rather than try to get this again. So.
Yeah, and that was kind of the way I did too. Like, I kind of took a pause in my collecting for a long time, when I was in my 20s, just because I had other things that I was focusing on. But Paul, what do you think? What would you do?
I mean, so we're saying like a fire happened and everything's gone.
Don't use those words.
Well, no, just I don't know, for whatever reason that you started again.
If Thanos winked your collection
Yeah,
out of existence,
there you go.
How about that?
Can I do that? Can just half of this shit go?
I mean, I think I would have trouble. I would have trouble. I couldn't just do what I did before, because a lot of the Starscreams are like one of a kind. Like they're done. I would probably try a less is more approach, but I don't know what it would be. Like maybe I really like the. What is it? Yeah, the flame toys, the super high value flame toys. The high cost ones. Like, kind of like, oh man, those would be cool to have. Like just those, but I wouldn't get them all. I'd just get the ones that look cool. The ones I like. The thing is, by not putting rules on it, like 10 years down the road, you have all 100 of them. Like that's what's tough. Maybe like stick with something like the 3A things, because they're really, really high quality. Like I'd probably go with quality over quantity. And I probably would not collect completist mint and sealed box stuff at all. I don't know. That's probably crazy. And I would definitely not get any third party stuff. I just would ignore it all.
Yeah, I know that's one thing that I had tried to kind of cut out of my collection for the most part, third party. And it's not necessarily anything against them. It's just, it's a good stopping point. Like, Masterpiece has made a lot of the best characters. Like, a lot of the main characters they end up making. And so, like, again, like, I have a really hard time that, like, say if I got the Jazz from Make Toys or whatever, And then I'm like, okay, well, if I got the Jazz, well, then I have to get the, Hound from them or whatever. I don't know. I'm trying to think of, like, one that came out that's not a masterpiece yet. But, like, you have this issue where it's like, well, then I got the Cliff Jumper, and then I got the, whatever, and then you just, then you have it all. And, like, that's my issue. Like, I know we all kind of have, this similar issue of completionism somehow.
Look, at its very core, collecting is about checking off boxes.
Yep.
And the question is just, how long is your list?
Right.
Too damn long.
But I do think
Are
it's
you checking it
interesting.
twice?
Like, we all talk about less is more and whatever, and then it's like all of us have, like kind of thing that I don't know. I run into that same issue myself, and I know earlier in the show, Catherine had asked, like, what do I collect? What kind of collector am I? And all that is it's like I have a hard time trying to figure that out, because like I've been through so many different phases and whatever, and I end up selling a lot of the stuff, myself, that, like, I've sold so many Masterpiece and Legends toys and just whatever that, over the years, just trying to figure out and define my collection. So, I think the thing I keep coming back to is Chug, and, classics and all that. I think that was kind of like what got me back into collecting, when I got back in 2006, 2007. And so it's kind of been like my first love and kind of what I always am drawn back to. So, that's personally what I'm trying to get down to now is like figuring out what else besides that do I want to collect, and try to get rid of the other stuff, because I'm out of room like everybody else. So
what's going to be a very popular collection is this Studio Series 86 stuff. Mm-hmm. Like, just like really, we don't know what it looks like yet. We have kind of an idea from the Cyclonus, if that's what it is. But if that stuff looks, as accurate as possible to the actual movie from 86, that stuff is going to be, they won't be able to make enough of it.
The trouble with that stuff too is that you're going to have the conversion of the people that are, collecting G1 and whatever. And then even though there's going to be some people that are going to pause that have been doing Studio Series, there's others that are like, well, I need that to collect my Studio Series line.
I guess the numbers in the series continue, so I guess I need to keep going.
Exactly. And so,
Same.
like, I agree with you that you're going to have a lot of those people kind of come together. I think some of those are going to be hard to find.
Well, and I think for the first time ever, it's going to be like, oh, no, this isn't Grimlock from G1. This is Grimlock from the movie. Like, and that's it. Even though he's, like, the same across all boards, like, they're going to pick some animation cells where it's like, this is exactly what we're going for. Same thing with Wheelie and Blur and Optimus Prime himself. Like, there's movie face Optimus Prime versus, like, Sunbow Optimus and stuff. And it's going to be exactly what you see in the film, and it's not going to be related to the toys. It's not going to be related to what came in season 3. It's going to be very, very hyper compartmentalized, and I think that's gonna be good for people. Like, they're gonna be like, wow, I get it now. This is so different. Like, I don't need classic Cyclonus. I need the movie Cyclonus.
Right.
Damn right.
So, and that's the thing I think that can be somewhat frustrating to people. I know that, that we've talked about before, that you're like, oh, I just got this amazing Siege Prowl or whatever. And then you're like, oh, now there's a new Earthrise Prowl. Like, well, this is, I just got this other one or whatever. And again, like, I don't know. But I know that there's some people like Don, I know, has mentioned this, where he's like, we just got a Cyclonus or whatever. And you're like, Don, like, that came out 13 years ago or whatever it is. Kind of.
I do that
thing.
a lot
like,
too.
Yeah, I know. Like, but I feel like some of us that have been there, they're like, why did we get this character again? And you're like, dude, like, a lot of people
And then you stop and do the math and go,
these people weren't born yet. Like,
What also no one was able to pick up on is it has to do with the show. It's all tied to the show, and we're finally going to get the show, and it takes so long to get the show that we don't realize it. Like the reason they made a different version of Prowl is because that's how he's going to look like in the show in the second chapter of it. It has nothing to do with whether he came out in the first one or not. It's like, hey, it's a different model. Let's go for it.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think that really the reason they're doing all that is because it's essentially another way to get repaints or remolds out of molds, like similar transformations, similar skeletons, but remolds, but and whatnot. So, but yeah, I don't know. Is there anything else that we need to add or cover on this, or do we think we've kind of covered?
I think we covered the gamut. Like we talked about a lot of hardcore collector stuff, as well as trying to like ease people in if they, if they're new to it. But I think the advice of have some patience, do some research. That's you have to. It never ends if you're going to stay in
nothing
collecting.
ever ends, Adrian.
I would also add to set a budget too for yourself. One thing that probably a lot of us have not done, but
what is a budget?
Damn right.
Live within your means.
But
if Rob was on here, that's the first thing he would have said is like set your monthly budget or something.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
It's like if you can't afford something in your 1 month budget, well, don't buy anything that month and wait for 3 months till you've added up enough to get it, and there you go. Like that would be his advice.
Right.
Be stringent about it and don't break it.
Right. I know personally, like, I don't like to be that stringent because, again, like, I'm like you, Paul, that if I see something that you have a good deal on it or something like that, sometimes you have to strike while the iron's hot, but you don't want to do that all the time. And, I've seen a few collectors kind of just go through it where they're like, I don't know. I remember one guy where he bought like $5,000 or $6,000 worth of Masterpiece figures in like one shot and was like, "Hey, check this out!" And then like you see like a month later, it's like, "My wife found the credit card bill and I'm selling everything." So
don't
and
do
now
that.
I'm divorced.
Right.
Well, because unless you didn't open it, you're boned. Like you're gonna lose a lot of.
Oh yeah, no, you did.
I mean, you're gonna lose money no matter what, because you probably pay. If you spent $5,000 on toys in a month, you probably paid top dollar for all that stuff too.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right.
That's probably the most important piece of advice I would give anybody is collect at your own pace and collect what you like.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And, don't rush out to spend mad ducats just to prove a point that, you're a baller. Don't do that.
Yeah. Don't be a baller.
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah. Because I tell you, it will not get the ladies. It will. It will. The size of your Transformers collection does not matter to the ladies.
Oh, we just went there, didn't
Oh my.
So.
Well, what are we doing next
Size
week,
that counts,
Lucas?
it's how you display it.
Well, next week I think we're gonna have to review this new Netflix show, right? It's coming out on Thursday.
That's a thing. That's
Is that
happening
right?
this week.
Is it Thursday when it drops?
The 30th, right?
Unless you got a preview access code.
Oh.
Well, there you go.
Which I did not.
I was gonna say.
Be having to share it with somebody if I did. You guys. But yeah, I think we're all gonna watch it Thursday. And I mean, I feel like this is a big deal. Like I've been waiting for this. I know it's probably gonna suck.
Yeah.
I am excited. I have high hopes that this will be good. So.
Yeah, I mean, this is Transformer content, brand new, debuting on Netflix. The last time we had this was The Toys That Made Us, which was also great, but like not quite, what we want. So I'm stoked. My expectations are low, but I'm looking forward to talking about it with everybody next week.
Yeah.
Yep. So
I'm tempted to get Netflix now.
get a free trial at least, right?
Pretty much. Might as well.
Oh, Yeah, are we doing? Are we gonna do spoiler free?
Are we doing spoiler man in the
chat?
Discord? That's a question. Should we just start a spoiler channel?
Oh, we should. We'll talk to Michael about that. Let's do a separate
that'd be
channel
good.
for spoilers, because you're right. You don't want somebody to find their way in the Discord and be like, oh shoot, like I don't know. It was funny. I was listening to Anthony from TFU.info had his review up, and at the beginning, like they had a whole like list of like things not to say, and so he read that list off, but he bleeped himself on like don't reveal that beep like is in the show.
That's funny.
Whatever. It's actually pretty funny if you go listen to it or whatever. So
I'm trying to stay away. I saw like one written review on Google, and that's it. So
yeah, I don't know. I kind of want to stay away, even if they're like spoiler free, just to like you don't want to get preconceived like notions about the show that you're like, oh, that this was good or bad or whatever, because like everybody's idea is different on on what they like. So
I'm going into this cold, so I'm gonna watch it anyway. I don't need to hear what everybody else thought ahead of time.
I have one piece of advice for you, Nick.
I was gonna mention, so tomorrow night on Microcasters, live on the TFTalk.net Facebook page, we are going to be reviewing the Dead Optimus Prime, whatever you call it. What's the official name of that?
Alternate Universe Prime.
Yeah.
So we'll be reviewing that, and then we're also going to talk about the non-F Optimus Prime kit to try to talk Anna into getting it.
I should come on that just to give her shit and tell her get it.
Yeah, let me know if you're available. But yeah, so that's going to be on at 9:30 Eastern, 8:30 Central.
Actually, I might be able to make it.
Okay, yeah, just let me know.
And then, speaking of microcasters, are we doing a Skylinks episode?
We will be doing a Skylinks episode at some point. So
I call game on that. Sky Kitty Space Chicken thing is over there. So
you guys could have done that months ago.
we could have. So, and then Anna could have shown off her like MMC Invento and whatnot and been like, "Oh, look at that! It's so much fancier." That's the third-party version of Skylink. So, but yeah, so we'll be doing that, and I don't know, Double Dealer, I'm sure will be at some point as well. So we got plenty of new stuff to. Oh, and Scorponok, which fell over earlier in the episode tonight, and everyone's like was wondering what the crash was. That was my Scorponok that fell over. I was like messing with something on my feet, and it was on a stack of stuff, and yeah.
Next thing you know, you topple the one case over. Oh shit! Oh.
Yeah. But yeah, and then also Cut the Tape on Friday or Saturday, just depending on when Rick sends it to me to edit down. So that's always fun as well. Right, exactly. So it's been on Saturdays lately on YouTube. So, but and then of course we also had a recent TF Talk news that came out as well. So it is nearing the end of its first season, I guess. So check that out. I think is it episode 18? I think there's maybe a couple more. So, I
think it was 18 this weekend.
So, but yeah, so that just dropped last night as well. So check that out. And I think that's it. If you want to continue the chat, join us in Discord. The link should be with the YouTube video if you're not sure. And
do we want to add links from all the stuff we talked about tonight somewhere?
Oh yeah.
I mean, if we were professional, we might. But
yeah, we can add that in with the notes or whatever.
The show notes.
The show notes. So, but yeah, I think that's it.
Cool.
So thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you guys, and thank you Esquire Prime, Catherine, Zaldron, Rodimus, Anna dropped in for a minute, minifigure collector. Trying to think who else, if I missed anybody else. I think that's everybody. So yeah, so thank you for everyone with your comments and all that, and we will see you next week.
Good night, everybody.